Let's learn IIB. Today, I will walk you through the troubleshooting steps that I followed when using two versions of IIB and two versions of MQ on the same machine. One of my friends is trying to install and use IIB version 9 and version 10 on the same Windows Home Edition operating system. Installation completed successfully. He was able to create the IIB version 9 broker along with QManager. But when he tries to start his local broker, then he faces MQ reason code 2035, which indicates authentication failure. I then check the queue manager IB9QMGR and find it is in started state. That is good. Broker was in stop state. That is the same status that we noticed in toolkit. When I try to start the broker, it complains that the broker is already running. You see, you will see issues like this if you run two different versions of the same software on the same operating system. The default installation steps that you followed might not be good enough when you already have a higher version of the same software on your disk. When I check the process tree, I see MQ processes are running as musr underscore MQ admin. Broker processes are running as system user. His local user HP is running some other process. I then terminate broker process using task kill command. Notice that no Dataflow engine was running. This means no execution group was active. I then look at services on his machine and find that apart from two versions of broker, he also has two versions of MQ on the same machine. I ask him to change all services of IIB and MQ to run as local system account instead of musr underscore MQ admin account. I then stop all the queue managers so that processes started by musr account, musr underscore admin account gets killed. I disable authentication, channel authentication at this point. But I don't remember if the queue manager was in started or stopped state. I tried to start the queue manager, which was in stop state, with user called HP. But that user, who was the administrator on the laptop, did not have access to start the queue manager. This is an easy problem to fix, right? You give the user HP access to MQ objects by adding him to group called MQM. To my surprise, the user HP was already part of the group MQM as you see on screen. What else can I do? At this point, I have exhausted the options I have read from IBM knowledge base. So I switch to trial and error attempts. I open IIB console using musr underscore admin1. Now I am able to start the queue manager. Why is the user not able to start the queue manager but the user musr underscore admin1 can? Both HP and musr belong to the same group MQM. So both should have the same permissions. I started the toolkit with musr underscore admin1 and I get 2035 not authorized error. Now you see that it is not a problem with permissions. The error reported by toolkit is misleading. This is where I make a big mistake. I tried to individually add groups to user such as MQBRKS, MQM, so on. But the home edition of Windows does not allow you to select more than one. I use PowerShell to modify the user HP and add him to MQBRKS group. See how the user HP is part of two groups, MQM and MQBRKS. Can you identify the big mistake that I made here? For many minutes, I tried lots of trial and error options. None of them were successful. I then created a new broker and a new queue manager. New broker and new queue manager were created, but here again it failed to start the broker and connect to it. I searched the logs of IIB. No information was available regarding IIB failures. I only saw a single line of log that said that the admin agent was started. No other logs. Last chance to identify the big error that I made. I asked my friend to restart the laptop. When the laptop was restarted, user HP was part of MQM group and MQBRKS group, but he was not an administrator anymore. That was the big mistake that I made. Now I have to find a way for the guest user HP to become admin user. This is not an easy task. Let me know in comments if you have any suggestions regarding this problem. I will try some options such as net user administrator hyphen active colon yes. This command will enable another admin user on the laptop. Reply in comments if you know how to get around this problem.